Hello everyone and welcome to the Vaughan and Tuffers Cricket Club, a podcast brought to you by the Telegraph. My name is Ben Wright and I'm joined as usual by Michael Vaughan and Phil Tufnell. Good to see you boys.
Morning.
And good to be back in our fantastic studio, our plush studio.
I just feel that we all need a bit of oiling.
Do you need a bit of oiling?
A bit of oiling.
Bit
After a
creaky.
long day
Yeah.
at the 100.
Bit of
creaky.
linseed oiling.
Yeah, we're a bit creaky this morning.
In today's episode, we'll look ahead to the upcoming Test series against Sri Lanka, with the first match starting on Wednesday, the 21st of August at Old Trafford. Plus, we'll be discussing the recent 100 finals and rating some of the performances we've seen over the last month. But I think it's only right that we begin today's episode paying tribute to Graham Thorpe, who you two both knew so well. A wonderful batsman, Graham spent his whole first-class career with Surrey and represented England in 100 Test matches between 1993 and 2005. Thorpe, very sadly, took his own life earlier this month at the age of 55. Michael and Phil, you both played alongside him. The news of his death must have been a huge shock to you.
Yeah, horrible. I mean, Thorpe was, first and foremost, one of the great players.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I'm sure Phil will say exactly the same, one of the great teammates. You know, he just had he was a cheeky chappy. You know, he could deliver. He had that white line fever that as soon as he went over the white line, he could switch it on and play pretty much any innings against any bowler in any situation, whether it was Test match cricket, white ball cricket. And then as soon as he came back over the white line into the dressing room, he was chilled. He was chilled. He was relaxed. He was humorous.
Yeah.
He was sharp
Great
with his
sense of
humour. Great kind of. He was always a great leveller for a young player like I was when I went into the England side. You know, you're always looking to your peers really to see how they operate and how they go about the business. And I always kind of watched, you know, Mike Atherton, Nasser Hussain, Alex Stewart, all different in their own way. But there was something about Thorpe that I could see that he was a world-class performer. Mm-hmm. But also, I just liked his mindset off the field. I felt that he could switch off, you know, and he was brilliant at always talking to the younger players about you've got to have that switch. You've got to get away from the game. You've got to make sure you're not always thinking about cricket. You know, when you go to training, you're on the focus of the training field. Yes, you start focusing, and he was as good as anybody. Even back in, I think it was Pakistan, one of the first tours I went with him, and he was the first really to scrub up nets. You know, get a load of sand on a length because he knew the ball was going to spin. He wanted practice to be harder. You know, he wanted the ball to be spinning really sharply in practice. So, you know, the old adage, you know, if you practice hard, the game should be a little bit easy. It's not always the case, but from the way that he practiced and focused in practice was a great example to all the young players. And then he just had this. He had these eyes.
Tough cookie, wasn't he?
He had the eyes when he went out to play and bat. He had the eyes to produce. It's so sad that he's left us.
And Phil, since he's died, there's been this sort of tidal wave of emotion, which kind of shows the esteem he's held by supporters, certainly people who grew up watching England in the 90s when he was the rock around which the batting was anchored, and also by fellow pros.
Absolutely. 100 Test match is sort of, speaks volumes. Not many guys do that. We became big friends, actually, very, very quickly. I mean, he was sort of like, I was a little bit before him, and then he got into the side. And the only times that we sort of came across each other was perhaps Middlesex versus Surrey, which was always a bit of a needle match. And then he came into the side. We became friends very, very quickly. Long tours in those days, 3 and 4 months. You used to be away and you used to have to get on with your mates, you know what I mean? And great sense of humour, as you say, tough cookie with the bat in his hand. And, but I mean, we had some laughs, you know what I mean? Crikey O'Reilly, we had some laughs. You know, he was a good wingman, Thorpe, you know. He used to wake me up all the time, you know. He sort of like very quickly realised that I needed getting, to be woken up virtually every morning. And he'd wake you up and sort of go, all right, cat man. And he'd go, you know what I mean? He said, you up? I'd go, yeah, thanks, Gray. And he'd be sitting there and he'd sort of like stagger onto the bus. And he'd sort of be sitting there, as you say, calm, relaxed, having a little chat or, having a bit of a laugh at the back of the bus. And he'd say, all right, cat, you know what I mean? I go, yeah, all right, Gray, you know what I mean? Everything all right? And he'd go, yeah, everything's all right. And he'd go, we were all right last night, weren't we? Yeah, no, you were sweet, mate. Sweet, absolutely fine, no worries. Oh, good, everything good? Yeah, everything good, mate. Oh, okay, what are we doing today? Well, you're going to go and bowl at Australia. And then, you know what I mean? And then I'm probably after tea going to have a little bat against Australia. Oh, that's all right then. And then, OK, then, well, we better get going then. And then well, off we go. And then it was a new day, you know, and that was what touring was like in those days. He was a great bloke.
If you think about it, Phil, to play 100 Test matches, I believe from the guys that played in the 90s where...
Cool, chop and change.
You know, you weren't on central contracts.
Yeah.
You weren't given a guarantee of a year's contract, which pretty much says that you're going to be in and around the team. You know, nowadays you get 2 and 3 year contracts. You know, and there was so much chopping and changing. I don't think there was any kind of structure to selection. I don't think there was any real structure to the management side of things.
You had to find your own path in those days.
Yeah,
You really did. We weren't set up with any tools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, we were just sort of like, oh, crikey, we've been picked to tour Australia. OK, well, you know, I mean, we're leaving on Saturday. You know what I mean? And then you just sort of sit there and you don't particularly know anyone, and so you have to form friendships, and then you have to kind of find a way to get through it. You know what I mean?
And as you say, you have to rely on each other. And Mike, you've talked about how he sort of welcomed you into the side when you joined, and he was out in the middle when you scored your maiden test.
Yeah, he didn't realise actually, because Wasim had flung it over the wicket-keeper's head for 4 byes, and I kind of worked out that was going to be a 6 and not a 2 to get me from 94 to 100. So I had to tell him, I've got 100, I think, Gray, which was great. You always have an affiliation with a lot of players that you play with, but, you know, particularly as a young bat, when you get your first 100, you remember who was at the other end, and you know he was the senior pro who kind of guided me through that period from 50 to 100. I always remember when I got the captaincy that, you know, I wanted to take England in a direction of being a bit more positive, and fitness was going to be a massive key. You know, I wanted us to be a fitter team so we could play harder cricket for longer. And I always remember Thorpe, because he was a great player, he actually came to see me and said, look, you know, my back's a bit sore, but I'm buying into everything that you're doing. And I said, do you know what, I'll look after you. Whatever you need me to do, whatever I can do to help you. So if I say that we're going to train at certain times and that training doesn't look like you're going to be able to do it, just look like you're doing something. Yeah. So it might be that you go in the gym, just look like you're stretching or doing something. I don't care what you do, because I want to look after you, because he was that good. Yeah. But to think that he came and saw me, you know, because I remember giving a speech. It was in Nottingham. My first game at Lord's was, we were a disaster. We got battered by South Africa. And then we go to Trent Bridge, and I'm like, nervous. So I have to. And Nasser Hussain came and said, you've got to have that moment as a captain where you tell the team what you want. And I did it at Trent Bridge.
Sort of rallying cry.
I had to give it in. I gave it them quite straight. And it was Graham that came. He just went, look, I'm absolutely right behind you. This is exactly what English cricket needs, and it'll take a bit of time. But as a senior pro, I'm going to buy into everything that you're going to try and do. And he's the one player that in 05 we'd have loved to have. You know, his bat wasn't quite right, and he was the player that, you know, if you go through to the 90s where Australia dominated, he played so well against, you know, I would say McGrath was at his pomp in the late 90s. Yeah. Feel around then. Yeah. Shane Warne bowling beautifully, then you had Gillespie bowling rockets.
He was the wicket.
You know, they had a wonderful team, and he stood up to that Aussie attack on a regular basis.
Well, I've read something that I can't remember the exact number, but something like his first 32 tests were against Australia, South Africa and West Indies.
No freebies.
And, they all had great bowling attacks in the early 90s, didn't they?
Yeah, they had magnificent bowling attacks, and he was a sort of a calming influence, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
You know what I mean? I mean, he was sort of a fiery sort of chap about certain aspects of cricket and life and things like that. But I always went to Graham for sort of like. You know, is everything all right? You know what I mean? Yeah.
He was like a psychologist at times, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was quiet. When he's, you know, but not a man of great, you know, a lot of words. You know, didn't speak just for the sake of speaking. But when he did speak, you know what I mean? He just sort of put everything into perspective very, very well, and just sort of like you thought, oh well, this is all right. You know what I mean? You know, we'll be all right today, Gray.
I always felt whatever the day we had, whether it was a great day or a very poor day, he'd be the same.
Yeah.
You know, he'd just be the same person. Yeah. And the morning after, we go again, you know, make everyone smile.
Yeah.
Now and again, make everyone laugh. I spent a lot of time with him actually in Pakistan playing PlayStation. You know, he was Chelsea. I think I was Man United. Astor Giles was Arsenal.
FIFA.
And he was going through difficulties at home. There was a few problems, and he eventually left that tour, which actually gave me my opportunity into the team around that time. But you know, he loved Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh, Chelsea, and he used to be so competitive on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
You know, he'd get up and kick kick the sofa or run around the room if he scored a goal. It was like
every day when you toured in those days, every time you opened your eyes, it was an adventure. You know what I mean? You just didn't know what was going to happen. A little bit chaotic, a little bit sort of like haphazard, and that was the cricket, that was the buses, that was the coaches, that was the aeroplanes. You know, every time you just woke up, if you let it get to you, you know what I mean? You'd be all over the place.
Yeah.
So you had to wake up. You know, the breakfast wasn't right, or the laundry hasn't come back. If you let it get to you, you know what I mean? You'd have no chance. And so you just sort of stuck together, had a great laugh, and laughed at everything, really.
Yeah.
16 of you, 17 of you, running around different countries, you know, playing cricket, doing your best, and then having a laugh in the evening. It was great fun. Had such good fun.
Clearly he had his demons, though, and he wrote about in his autobiography about the breakdown he had in the 2002 Lord's Test, and I think that was against India. He wrote at one point, there came a time when I would have given back all my test runs and test caps just to be happy again. And we've since had players like Marcus Trescothick and Jonathan Trott, and more recently Ben Stokes, talking about their mental health. Do you think there's been a big change in the way the topic is treated in the sport?
Yeah, you know, I think Marcus Trescothick did a great service to all sports people. You know, someone at the height of his profession, playing incredibly well, yet couldn't go out and play and couldn't tour because of the illness that he had, and he came out and did a brilliant book. You know, I'll be honest, I saw a bit of that from Graham when he was in Pakistan, and he was struggling. Yeah. You know, with Marcus, I never saw it. You know, it's an invisible illness, which is the hardest illness to treat. But I did over the last few years, in particular, through obviously his coaching with the England team after the Ashes, there was whispers and rumours about Graham of not being happy and things not being great. And you know, cricket is one of those sports that, you know, it's been documented a lot about the mental side of the game and the mental pressures and the stresses that you're put on because you're away from home. And you know, cricket's a hard game.
Yeah, it is.
You're having to think about it. You know, Test cricket 5 days a week. You're thinking about it, and you kind of look at this era and what England are trying to do now with, you know, getting the players to play golf, and we kind of take the mick out of it now and again that you have to be a golfer to play in the England team. But I fundamentally understand what they're doing. They really are trying to make sure that the players enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying it, you know, you can go back to your room and you can just think about, you know, trying to get another run or trying to get another wicket, and it can drain you. Can drain the life out of you. And I go back to the 90s, and you know, Phil played a lot more in the 90s than I did, but you know, they weren't rewarded. Yeah. You know, they weren't rewarded like the players these days. And that's not saying that, you know, just because you're rewarded you can't go through any kind of illnesses. Of course you can, but you know, I have always a huge amount of admiration for the England team in the 80s and 90s. I really do, because I came through an era that I came into the side in 99 and pretty much straight away I was centrally contracted, looked after, had a bit of a protection blanket around me. When we toured, you know, we turned left on the plane, and just little things. Got great hotels, good expenses. The families could come and visit whenever. Yeah, really,
crucial, right?
You know, in the 90s, they didn't have any of that. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty sure you had to pay for the families.
Yeah, we did.
The family. Imagine you're going to Australia for 4 months to play against the best team in the world, arguably at that time, and you're not getting a lot of dosh. And then you want to try and get your family and your kids over for Christmas and New Year, and it's probably going to cost you. Yeah. You know, people kind of probably go, oh, yeah, you're lucky doing what you do, but wait a minute, it's your job. You know, you're going over there to deliver your job, and then you're having to pay all this money for all your family, and then that's a stress. So there's so many things that happened back in the 90s for the England players and cricketers in general that I look back and think, oh, cool, they did well to cope.
Yeah. I spent most of my tour theory on phone calls. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And fags.
Yeah, fags, and a few beers perhaps. But yeah, no, I had a couple of wobbles on tours. I mean, I went on quite a few tours. I think I went on about 8 or 9 tours for England, and I had a couple of wobbles. Not at the beginning. The first couple of tours, you're fresh-faced, you're young, you're single, you're out there, you're representing your country. It's absolutely fabulous. But after those like initial sort of times, you then sort of become an established member of the side, and that's when things, you know, start to sort of like heap on your shoulders a little bit. And I got fined both times for having a tear. in me room, sort of late one night. Yeah.
You were fined for
Really?
Yeah,
Got fined?
got fined. Yeah,
what?
got fined.
Because you cried?
Yeah, because I had a little sort of breakdown late one night. I think I was like, I was getting divorced or something, you know what I mean? The washing machine had broken down or something, you know what I mean? And I couldn't, you couldn't sort anything out. Things weren't going well on the field or off the field, and so you sort of sat there and you sort of like, I don't know, I think I threw the television out the window or something, and sat down before old Phil de Freitas. He was in the toilet. And he was sort of saying, I think someone needs to come and have a word with Phil. You know what I mean? He's having a little bit of a sort of a do, and so they came in there. They sort of the physio and everything. They sort of put their arm round you and did what they could do, and sort of like had a little chat with you and got someone in to come and have a chat with you. A couple of days later, went to see him in the, in the team room. And they said, yeah, we fined you £2,000. I went, what?
Which would have been a quite a high percentage.
It's
of your
supposed to be
court.
tough. You know what I mean? And I said, what? And they said, well, you know what I mean? We're going to have to fine you. And I said, what, you're fining me for sort of being upset? And that's how it was in those days, I'm afraid. It happened a couple of times, but I don't think that they really knew how to handle it. Well, they didn't know how to handle it.
You've just said something that if you think about in the 90s, Phil's just said he spent most of his money on phone calls.
Yeah.
There was no, Skype.
No.
That you could. Just remember, you're going on
sort
tour.
of like,
You're going on tour.
Wind it up and keep putting the two
all right,
P's
you
in.
might be able to speak to people, but you can't see your kids.
Yeah.
You can go on Skype and at least you can see your kids and have a half decent conversation, and you see what they're up to. They can show you what they've done at school, or what the kind of activities are. As I say, I have a huge amount of admiration for all cricketers in the 90s for what they've had to go through, and it can drain you.
Yeah,
it really
loved
can.
every single minute of it though. You know what I mean? Loved every single minute of it. You formed friendships, you formed bonds with players. It's sort of like backs against the wall, and nothing better, than going out there at the MCG or the SCG, and everyone's having a go at you. You know what I mean? And you look round the dressing room, and that's when you catch the eyes of your mates. You know what I mean? You think, oh bloody hell, you know what I mean? This is a bit tasty, And you have to sort of then, it's you know what I mean? You go, right, okay, off we go. Lost a toss at the Gabba. Okay, off we go, lads. You know what I mean? And they're coming for you. You know what I mean?
That when you got 3 for on day one.
Well, yeah, it was actually Vaughan honestly. But I mean, yeah.
I thought you mentioned the Gabba.
Yeah, but you sort of
on an absolute road, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an absolute road, and you think, and that's you're talking about draining off the field and what have you, but that drains you. That drains you when you know what you're up against. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these boys ain't messing about. And we're not messing about either. We're out there to do a job just as much as they are, but sometimes you come up against, and you were talking about the attacks. Donald and Pollock, Walsh Ambrose, Wasim Wakar. I mean, everyone had an attack. And there was sort of us who were trying.
Oh, that was the era.
We were trying hard.
That was the era where they went to India, and
Ted Dalton.
Dermot Reeve's mum had to score because the scorer got ill. Yeah. I mean, you probably took what in your backroom team to India for?
Not even that.
You had a physio.
We had a physio, yeah. We had old Laurie Brown, old
Laurie
old
Brown, ex-Man United physio, Laurie.
All right, lads, how you doing? What's the matter? He just. It was great fun. But looking back at it, crikey O'Reilly, you had to have a little bit of bottle about you, otherwise, you know what I mean. You just get marmalised.
Thank you, Mike and Phil, for sharing your memories of Graham Thorpe. Our thoughts, of course, at this time are with his family and friends. You boys were at the 100 yesterday. How have you enjoyed the tournament this year?
I enjoyed the last weekend. I thought the Eliminators with the Super 5 on Saturday night was fantastic. A full crowd at the Oval.
What happened there?
Oh, Liam Lewis.
Oh, my word.
11 off 5, no ball 6, 3 off 5 required, left arm spinner bowling. How do you not get over the line? But they didn't. And I actually thought with the Brave, the way that they got through the group stages with a rained-off game, getting them that 1 point to go above the Superchargers to get in the elimination, I thought, oh, it's written in the stars for the Brave.
Yeah.
Then they sneak through the eliminations on a Super 5 and then get to Lloyd's, think, oh, they're going to win it easy. I thought Lord's yesterday was absolutely magnificent.
It was.
I honestly thought 22,000 for the women's game in the afternoon.
28. For
Zara Larsson comes out and sings through the long room. Never seen that before. Strolling down the steps, gets on a tractor, goes around the ground. Bearing in mind, we're told we're not allowed to walk across the hallowed turf to do any kind of commentary during the. She's got a tractor. Tractors are brilliant, and there was a great atmosphere. Yeah. And I know that the 100, it's like Brexit, isn't it? You're either in or you're out.
Well, I don't know. I've actually, I mean, I don't think it's Marmite for me. I've actually got mixed feelings about it because it's clearly bringing in new fans. It's great for the women's game. It's bringing much needed money into the game. Whether we need it in another format, the sort of enforced jollity of it, and what it does to the season, I don't like.
I don't think it's, so many things. I mean, social media is not a great adjudicator of many things, but God, it brings out some venom. The 100 brings out venom in people. All I'll say is, from my perspective, you'll leave the Oval or you'll leave Lord's on a Test match evening after a Test match day. And by the way, the Test matches for me are still the pinnacle by a country mile. And when you leave there as a broadcaster, you will get some shit. There'll be some pissed up idiots. It's lively. All I'm saying is, from my experience at Lord's last night, you leave the ground and there is a completely different crowd. There's a load of kids and everyone's happy. There's no abuse flying. Everyone's just smiling. A load of kids are trying to get autographs and selfies. That's the trend these days. I'll be honest about this year's 100. I think the ECB screwed up. I think they put it
in what way?
I think they put up against the Olympics.
Right. So scheduling.
I just think the scheduling of this year's 100 was poor. When you think you're trying to sell it for a lot of money, I think the ECB have got to make a very, very kind of brutal call. I don't think there should be bilateral one-day series anymore. I think you should play your bilateral series a month before the World Cup. Whatever the World Cup is, whether it's T20 or 50 over, that's the month that you get together with your team to play that format. You should be picking your teams. Now, if you want these franchise leagues to be a success, and people say, oh, just get rid of them. Well, you can't, because they're going to earn too much money. If you get rid of the bilateral one-day series in your summer, then you can have a prominent 4-week window where all your England players will be able to play every single game. You look at the IPL. The IPL is a massive success. It's a juggernaut. Clearly, India is a hotbed for cricket. Billions watch it. Billions play it. Huge TV deals, but all of the Indian players can play every single game. And pretty much most of the international players make sure that April, May, they're available for that. I'm pretty sure that the ECB can work a system where for the 4 weeks of the 100 in the future, every single England player can be available. The only way to do that is to get rid of the bilateral one-day series. So we play Sri Lanka now for 3 Test matches, then there's one-day series against Australia. If you kind of cleared that, I was in this, it's in the kind of TV contract. Well, let's do a new TV contract. When that expires, let's go for a new one. Bilateral one-day series for me they're just a game. There's nothing really. There's no consequence. Just a game. People generally rotate their squads around those bilateral games now. So that's for me what the ECB should do. Make the 100 a prominent 4-week window in the summer. I'm not saying that you should have it at the same time all the time. So why would you go up against the Olympics in 4 years' time in particular? Because cricket's in the Olympics. So why would you go up against the Olympics where cricket's going to be, where you might have to lose some of your players? I don't know what the team will be that Great Britain choose, but I think scheduling is the key. I think that's affected it massively, but it was saved at the back end by the weekend, which was absolutely spectacular.
It was a great day out. It was a great day out yesterday. I mean, we were doing the commentary on it, and we was exhausted at the end of the day. I mean, crikey, Riley, talk about something happening every ball, fireworks going off, as you say, tractors singing, dancing, it was a great day out, and everyone thoroughly enjoyed themselves. And I had a great day. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I enjoy it.
But it was just it was whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
But what I don't like is when people say, you're only praising it because you're getting paid to commentate. We love all cricket. Yeah. Give me a T10, give me a 20 overs, 50 overs, 40 overs. The Metro Bank's been absolutely magnificent, and people forget that the Metro Bank's allowed so many young players to play. Now, if the 100 wasn't there, the Metro Bank would be played by all the senior players, and these younger generations wouldn't be getting that opportunity to go and play in games, at Lord's, at Old Trafford. Get that opportunity to mix it with some of the senior pros that aren't playing in the 100. some of the overseas players that have come over and played in that tournament. These younger players have got an incredible platform now. It just needs to be worked out with the scheduling. It really does. And the ECB, I'm just sick and tired of. I just don't. I'm just saying, the ECB are sending out mixed messages. Just back it.
Yeah.
You're trying to sell it for hundreds of millions of pounds. Well, come out publicly and back it. Just absolutely get behind the 100 and back it, because how are you going to sell something or a franchise for 50 to 70 million when you're not actually publicly backing it massively yourselves?
Yeah.
Get out there and back it. If you think that's what you're going to get and that's the kind of value that you're going for, get on the front foot and back it and get behind it.
And the players love it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were doing the interviews afterwards. I mean, they're a proper team, the Oval Invincibles. You know what I mean? They've got it really well coached by Tom Moody.
Yep.
They just fight and scrap, and they've got that sort of franchise, or whatever you want to call it, sort of like really going in the right direction. And you could tell by Sam Billings, you know what I mean? They wanted that, you know what I mean? Properly. It's not a bit of hit and giggle and, let's all have a laugh, you know what I mean? And he said something, he said, the 100 is a tough competition to win. And so if you get that on your CV, that means something.
Yeah.
It's just not like a great big silly sort of the age.
I mean,
I thought his captaincy was great.
Oh,
yeah,
I mean, he was just
Top
the way he
class.
was using his bowlers.
Top class.
It's very clever that all the shorter format games now are quite a strategized operation. All the different kind of tactics, the different manoeuvres, the different
He was busy, Mike, wasn't he?
subtle field changes to
Yeah.
every single batter. They know exactly where everyone's sitting. There's so much data now.
Yeah.
I personally, and again, I'd go for 2 more teams. I'd have one up in Durham and have one down in the southwest.
Yeah.
And make it a 10-team tournament.
Yeah, there's a bit of a desert in the southwest. isn't there?
The argument would be, would you take it to a T20 tournament? I think. You could argue that some of the franchise owners from India may want a T20 tournament, but fundamentally it's about the audiences. And, if you take it to a T20, is that too long a day? Maybe terrestrial TV might not like that as much. But I would make it a 10-team tournament in the future, whether it's next year, the year after, I don't know when that can happen. But 10 teams would be a nice structure for me, and just see where we can take it. But it has to be backed.
You're talking about making sure all the England players play in it. Obviously, one of the downsides this year was Ben Stokes pulling his hamstring. And he's now out of the Sri Lanka.
You can't have your cake and eat it, though, can you? I mean, we're going, what was Ben doing playing in the 100? Well, as you say, he wanted to play in the 100. He wants to go and showcase, you know what I mean? He wants to get the kids involved, and you're going to get injured. I got injured getting out the bath when I played.
Johnny Bairstow got injured playing golf. I mean, so that's the ironic situation. Because it happened in the 100, boom, the venomous kind of social media warriors are in, smashing the 100. Why the 100? They weren't doing that when Johnny Bairstow got injured playing golf.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's just that tournament, it just seems to bring this hatred. But there are so many people that love it.
Yeah.
And people are forgetting that. There are 28,000 people turned up at Lord's.
Yeah.
Full house at the Oval the night before.
Yeah.
The women's game has had a fantastic platform.
Breaking records
It really
every
is a fantastic
game.
platform. So the 100 over 4 years, if you think back to the IPL when it started, it took a few years to get going. And now 4 years into the 100, and I think I'll be honest, I think this has been the worst of the 4 years.
Yeah.
I think this year it's
Ball's
not
done a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
it's been a bit.
like that.
I like it. I like a 140, 150 par. I think that's a good game of 100 ball cricket. When it gets to 190, 200, ball's not doing quite enough, and the pitches are too flat. So there's a fine balance to find.
Especially the men's final was sort of won by the bowlers, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the Southern Brave, they could have chased that down. It probably required James Vince to bat another 30, 40 balls. But look, it's a product that's it's over 4 years. And so I do think this has been the worst of the 4 years because of the kind of competitive nature against the Olympics. But it's gathering a little bit of momentum. And I went to Headingley in the Super, a lot of purple shirts. A lot of purple shirts. Yesterday, you look at the crowd, a lot of Oval Invincible shirts, a lot of Southern Brave shirts. So these kids, they are starting to affiliate themselves. Absolutely. It might take a few more years for them to get that real competitive edge of the derbies, Superchargers versus the original. I'm not too sure whether they ever get like Yorkshire, Lancashire. But we're talking about like many years of that rivalry. Now, we're only 4 years in, so...
The kids were talking about it out the back. I went for a wander, you know what I mean? And there were kids just sort of sitting there going, oh, you know what I mean? You could see the passion for the Invincibles. You know what I mean? They were going, no, we've got this, we've got that. It was like sort of a game of top trumps. You know what I mean? They were really buying into that sort of their team. And you're saying, in our day, it was, Middlesex versus Surrey, Essex and all that. But there is now a sort of a different vibe about it, and and they were bantering. You know what I mean? We're better than you. We've got better. Sampa's better than your leggy. Our top five's better than your top five.
Although some of my friends at home, when they watch, they think that teams. One's called the Butterkiss. One's called the Pom Bear. One's called KP Nuts.
They're the biggest logos, aren't they? You mentioned Zampa there. Who are some of the standout across the women and the men's tournaments for you? Because he was obviously a tremendous addition to the Invincible side.
The two current boys.
Yeah.
Zampa, just a good all-round side. You know what I mean? James Vince, top run scorer.
Tamar Mills,
Mills,
Chris Jordan, usual kind of players that just perform.
Joffre
produced a bit of magic at times. Deepti Sharma for the women, absolutely outstanding. Average of well over 100. Nipped in with
Red mate,
a nice few overs of offside. I'm pretty sure she was wearing shin pads yesterday bowling, Phil. Deepti Sharma. She had shinnies on. Honestly, she had shinnies under her trousers. Not too sure about that, but yeah, she's been fantastic. Just little things that you see that, particularly in the women's game, that you go, oh yeah, I like that. Danny Gibson's innings yesterday went out there 6 fours in 7 balls, completely changed the momentum. Just having that free-spirited player in the middle of the innings. Heather Knight's been rock solid.
Yeah, Beaumont.
She's a wonderful player, Heather. Brilliant player, particularly against spin. And Shabnin Ismail, she dropped the catch to see the spirit over the line. But her bowling, her pace, those 3 wickets were just about to get the fire to lifting that trophy. But look, over the 4 years, the main success has been the women's game. But I do think that there's something happening within the men's game which is quite good. And obviously, when all this investment comes in, and again, it's when it's not a matter of it's not coming in; it's when it's going to come in. It's just how that works. And I do think in time, for it to become that special tournament, and in 4 or 5 years' time, it starts to be talked about globally. Oh, it's the IPL. You're not going to compete with that. But then, the tournament in England, that's what you want to go and play. They're going to have to get the price up. They're going to have to start writing some bigger cheques for the teams, and the only way that they can do that is to get some big investment in.
One intriguing prospect for next year is Jimmy Anderson, who's been talking about how he quite likes the idea of playing some white ball. It's been moving around. You said the ball's been moving around. Nobody moves it around better than him.
I'm not having him playing cricket. He's a paddle tennis player now. Why not? I mean, if the ball hoops around a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think Mo said that he was looking to get him.
Last year, the Rockets were going to get him, weren't they? And did Mo go for him this year, did he?
Yeah,
well, he said because they were having some injuries, he said one more injury and I would have been on the phone to Jimmy.
Listen, I'll tell you something. He'd bowl well with that ball. I mean, it hoops early on and it stays swinging a bit as well.
Well, you could argue that there's a value.
Jimmy, what you
first
doing,
5
mate?
balls. There's a value. I mean, Tara Norris just bowled a lot of the time 5 balls at the start of the innings.
Yeah.
Now, could Jimmy Anderson just whip out 5 balls if it goes well? You give him another 5, 10. You're not going to bowl him down the back end. That's not going to happen. But a 5-ball bowler, Jimmy Anderson, try and get one at the top.
Yeah, stop them getting their eyes in.
What a job that would be.
Just
a 5-ball bowler.
Well, he's also a great fielder as well, isn't he? So you could have him roaming around in the outfield.
Too early, I was.
Brilliant. Well, you could, if he gets to a stage where he's a bit croaky in the field, he could easily work a way of getting off. If you're only going to bowl 5 at the start, off you go.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Cynical.
There's been a few of those with the bat, hasn't there?
Been
having a
stinker. That's a new rule, isn't it?
Get in.
You've got to have a bit of
bottle. Do that with your bowler as well.
God, blimey. Well, he's still a good fielder. Why not, eh? Why not?
But do you know the point, right? So a batter's batting badly, right, and you want him in, get in.
Yeah.
You should be able to bring your bowler off.
What, mid-5?
Yeah, well, you're taking a batter off, the embarrassment of a batter. Strolling on. By the way, the batter has to walk all the way off as if he's out.
Head down.
With everyone booing.
Be like baseball.
Yeah.
Bring on the bullpen.
Yeah, why shouldn't you be able to do that to a bowler?
New one in.
You're
fresh
having a
arm.
stinker. Off.
Talking the white ball, big news with Matthew Mott stepping down as England's white ball coach. What do you make of that, and who do you think is likely to replace him?
Well, they use stepping down, don't they, quite often these days. Pretty sure he's been given the heave-ho, unfortunately. Oh, I think he's a bit unlucky. You know, he won a T20 World Cup. England got to a semi-final this time, so he's had 2 T20 World Cups with England, won one and got to a semi-final in the other, and then came up against India in Guyana on a pitch that was completely suited to India, which is what you have to beat, but they weren't quite good enough to do so. I get the feeling that they're trying to work someone or find someone to work as a better combination with Jos Buttler.
Right.
It's clear that Buttler and Mott together as a combo, and that's the key combination. You look at Ben and Baz in the Test team. I mean, you couldn't get 2 people that work together any better, and I think they're trying to find someone for Jos. Marcus Trescothick, who Jos will know a lot from down at Somerset. I hope Marcus does well. I really do. The one thing about the 100 that really pisses me off is that we created it in this country, and we've only got one English coach.
Yeah.
And that person is Freddie Flintoff, who's not gone through the system. He's just come from and he's like he's a motivational coach, isn't he? A motivational kind of management figure, and he's done a really good job. But you kind of go, wait a minute, we've got 8 teams, and we've got all these. And I'm Stephen Fleming, fantastic. Tom Moody, I love them to bits. They're brilliant at what they do, but surely we've missed an opportunity of giving 3 or 4 of our own the chance to go and run a franchise in the UK. And maybe if they'd have done that, we'd have been in a better position to all of us start talking about that coach or that coach to come and do the whiteboard team. Whereas at the minute we're all going, interim Marcus, hope he does well.
Yeah.
But they'll scour the net for the likes of it. You know, I've heard Kumar Sangakkara, Ricky Ponting ruled himself out. I heard Rahul Dravid. I'd love us all to be in a position to go, you know what, we've got X, Y, Z, and we've got 5 or 6 English options that could easily do equally as a decent job.
Yeah, I think they were just, the whiteboard team was just lacking a little bit of spark, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It was sort of trundling along, and we've got a fantastic.
They need a bit of transition, that team.
It had come out of an era of dominance.
Yes, absolutely, and there wasn't that sort of like, right, this is where we're now going to go, and this is a new journey and a new adventure. You know what I mean? You know, we've got the players, we've got the youngsters. Let's all buy into this new kind of thing. It was just a little bit sort of. Yeah, just trundled along, you know what I mean, on a bit of an upward sort of path.
But I do think,
got the semi-finals, but there just wasn't that sort of, I think they're looking for another Baz McCullum a little bit. He's going to come in and go bang.
Yeah. But if you look at that, so you go Phil Salt, Ben Duckett, Will Jacks.
Some players there, I tell you.
You know, obviously Jos Buttler carries on. Then you've got likes of Ben Duckett. You know, there's fact. Then you go Jacob Bethel.
Yeah.
You know, Jamie Smith.
Yeah.
You're looking at some. That's just the batting.
Harry Brook.
Yeah.
You know, Harry Brook. I mean, England aren't short of world-class performers.
No,
so in terms of the strikers in the batting department, you know, I think they're going to be absolutely fine. They've just got to try and find a bowling unit, a bowling attack. There's a little bit of, Moeen Ali's probably come towards the end of his international career. Adil Rashid's bowling great, but how much longer can Adil? Who's going to be Adil's replacement if he goes to the wayside? Ryan Namid's not playing for the Braves, not played a great deal of cricket this year. So they've got to find 1 or 2 tricks in that bowling department, because fundamentally, and I'll always say this, batters will win you a game, but bowlers win you tournaments.
Yeah.
So England have to find a real quality bowling attack. If they're going to go to Sri Lanka and India in 25 next year,
looking at
for the T20 World Cup, and then obviously the World Cup in South Africa. I think they'll be fine in South Africa with the batting, because all our batters will be able to play really well on those wickets. It's batting in subcontinent conditions, I guess, that they're going to have to try and improve a little bit.
Saw you being interviewed the other day, and you were told to sum up captaincy in 3 words. What was it?
Get good bowlers.
Yeah, there you
Simple
go.
as that.
Easy.
I've never seen a good captain without a good bowling attack. So, but focus on that. Really focus on making sure that you're getting. You'll need a bit of pace, but skill, real skill, and those kind of bowlers that can get you wickets. You need wicket taking bowlers in white ball cricket, in particular the shorties format. You just need those bowlers that can create a spark. I mean, you can't find a Jasprit Bumrah pretty much anywhere, but if you can get 2 or 3 bowlers that the captain can throw the ball to and go, come on, create something, you're going to be in a bit, particularly with that batting lineup. The batting lineup's got so much power.
Yeah. Turning to red ball cricket now, we've got the Sri Lanka series starting. Mike, you talked earlier on in our series about the fact that England would probably win all 6 tests. We did. We won all 3 tests against West Indies. Do you think we're going to repeat the trick against Sri Lanka?
Well, bearing in mind the Sri Lankans have just lost to England Lions, which was a an under
What was that, by 7
19
wickets?
team, really. Hamza Sheikh, I was just mentioning, he got 91, a young player, 18 years of age from Warwickshire, captains England 19, brilliant player. He's a wonderful talent. He just needs to get that opportunity to play for Warwickshire. So, look, Sri Lanka, when the ball moves around, I think England will be all over them. But if it doesn't and it becomes quite flat, I would think Sri Lanka will get a few runs. It's just the bowling looks so light. I just can't see how they're going to stop this kind of juggernaut of an England batting lineup.
And that's even without Stokes and without
Yeah,
Crawley.
well,
You can see some, the boys coming in and just filling the shoes. These days there's no sort of like, a bit nervous and everything. The guys just come in there and just play the natural game. That's
Well,
the
Jordan
way.
Cox, he played in the final yesterday. He'll probably potentially make his debut on Wednesday. He's getting a chauffeur up this morning, and he was just saying, I can't wait. Just play a bit of golf and then play a bit of cricket.
Nice.
Yeah, go
What,
out
what
there.
not to like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be too strong for Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should win all three.
Yeah.
As you say, Ben Stokes is injured. Ollie Pope will be captaining.
Yes.
Quite good for him to have the opportunity to do that, to do some captaincy. He hasn't done it in his first-class career, I don't think.
No, I mean, talk about off you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be an absolute crackerjack for him. I mean, he'll be nervous, won't he, Mike? You know what I mean? But I mean, what an honour. And, you go through your processes, don't you? He'll be thinking about things. But as you say, if you're in a dominant position and the team's looking to play well, everyone kind of knows their roles. He's going to be led by Baz. I'm sure Stokesy will be there as well in the dressing room. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for him just to go out there and just toss the corner. He'll be practicing the toss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In front of the mirror. You want to get that right. You don't want it just to go and fall flat on the. You know what I mean? Imagine that won't be a good start. But
it's a nice.
Yeah. What's the feeling like when you get that?
It's great. It's great. He should just enjoy it. Ben will be coming back. Yeah. It's actually quite in a funny way. If there was ever a time to get injured for Ben Stokes, now's the time just to see how the team cope without him.
Yeah.
It might happen
that's
in
my
a year's
point.
time.
He's sort of such a talisman that in a way it's quite good for England to have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cold turkey, as you say. He'll be around. He'll
have his scrap of paper with all the fielding positions on it. You know what I mean? Right, 3 slips, gully.
It always makes me laugh when there's always never captain before. I said, wait a minute, he's been playing for England for 50 odd tests.
Yeah.
He's seen enough cricket. He'll be
You know
fine.
where they all feel.
these England captains, they all come from not captaining the camp. How do you captain your camp when you're playing for England? It just doesn't happen. The surprise for me was actually Dan Lawrence opening the batting.
Yeah, I don't quite.
I'm not too sure. I mean, when you're in a position of power, you can do whatever you want. Your role is to pick the team.
Yeah.
And England clearly, from this choice in particular with Dan Lawrence, he's opened a few times, but he's not an opening batter.
Yeah.
And it's really...
Well, you talked about Sri Lankans struggling when the ball's moving.
Well, the history of Test cricket generally tells you that, look at Steve Smith, great. He's gone to open for Australia. It's not really been a success.
It's not a long-term pick, is it?
It's not,
thing?
but
Or is it? I don't know.
I think Lawrence is a 5 or 6 who's very dangerous when the ball's a bit softer and a bit older and the bowlers are a bit tired. This selection absolutely proves to me now that this team go purely on people's personalities as much as game.
Yeah.
Because Keaton Jennings, for me, should be opening the batting on Wednesday. He's done great for Lancashire. When he played for England just a few years ago, the ball was doing all sorts. He kept on sneaking off to quality Indian bowlers, played well overseas. He's a really good player of spin. I think he's a better player now, but he's probably more he's a little bit more serious than some. And he probably focuses a lot more on cricket than others. Yeah. And I just think this England kind of mechanism, they like players that are a little bit more free-spirited. Yeah. They really do. They believe that if you're just thinking about cricket all the time and you're quite serious, it can drain you, and it can. Yeah. I look back at my career and I sometimes thought, I wish I could have had that switch-off button a little bit more. So maybe I'd have lasted a bit longer, but probably not with my dodgy knees. But I do think this selection is not that we've not thought about this in the past. It absolutely guarantees to me that you have to be a certain type of personality to get into this England team.
He could go out there and smash 100. You know what I mean? But then, can you see that happening if someone gets injured for the Ashes? Are you going to put Dan Lawrence?
Well, that's
the Aussies. That's
my point, Phil. Realistically, when you're picking a player, you've got to go, okay, then Zach's injured for the Indian series next year. Can you see Dan Lawrence walking out saying centre please to Jasprit Bumrah with the new cherry?
And flicking him over mid-wicket.
I can't see that. Can you see him it's Perth, the first Test match in the Ashes, taking guard to Mitchell Starks? Yeah. And by putting him in this position, that's what they must be thinking.
Yeah.
They must be thinking that, but I can't. At the minute against Sri Lanka, I think you
Listen,
have
they
to
get it right more often than not. You know,
debatable.
Bashir,
That's debate. That is
Bashir,
debatable.
Hartley, who's the other?
Well, it's debatable. They lost 4-1 in India.
Yeah, and we've had
Well,
big question
yeah.
marks over the openers, especially, haven't we?
Yeah, it's
'Cause it was
debatable.
Crawley
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, do you Ben Duckett gets injured next summer, or is that can happen? It's
Yeah.
cricket.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you envisage Dan Lawrence strolling out to bat against Shami, Bumrah, Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood? I can't. I just think, and also from him,
But
I think he's
having
waiting.
said that, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we would have struggled to see Ben Duckett walking out against.
But he's
those
always
kind of players.
open, you see.
Sure.
He's an opening batter. He's done it all his life.
Yeah.
Dan's not done that.
Yeah,
I mean,
has to be in the
he's
blood.
talented and he's got he's a dasher. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're ever going to start opening the bat, and again, not disrespecting the Sri Lankan attack, this is the attack that you choose to do so. So I think he can be a success against Sri Lanka. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Bumrah, Shami, Cummins, Stark. Is Dan Lawrence going to be doing that? And I would personally had preferred to them go for a more sensible chap.
Yeah.
in
Jai
keeping-
Surya could be the next Jai Surya.
Well, we've got. They'll say I'm being boring. I'm just saying. Look, Keaton Jones. I believe Keaton's earned the right to get that opening berth because an opening spot became available. I think Keaton deserves that opportunity.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Before we wrap up, I've got to ask you, as usual, what has stumped you recently? Phil, shall I start with you? What stumped you?
Well, I'm sort of all a little bit of a quandary. Should breakdancing
Is it a sport?
be in the Olympics, and should it even be a sport? After I sat down there and watched Ray Gunn, who was taken, the kangaroo move got
The Australian competitor.
They're all doing it in
like
Chicago now, or wherever it was originated. I don't know, but I'm not sure. I mean, it made me laugh, but that stumped me. Breakdancing and Ray Gunn. What the hell was going on?
And do you know she was part of the selection committee.
I've heard that.
She
that
selected herself.
Yeah, she got rid of all the good ones and stuck herself in.
I thought it was excellent.
I think it was probably the highlight of the Olympics for me.
Yeah.
It was amusing.
I like the fact.
Whether it was sport is another question.
I like the fact that
is it sport?
breakdancing has made the Olympics before cricket.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's been outed now, though, hasn't it? I think they said that we've had enough of that.
I'll tell you what stumped
the
me.
strong suggestion is it might not make a reappearance in 4 years' time.
Yeah, I tell you what stumped me, and I loved it, is Zara Larson walking through the long room singing.
Yeah,
for the 100.
Never going to see that again, are
I thought it
we?
was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So is that what stumped you?
the egg and bacon brigade.
Cool.
That
It
weren't
stumped-
there
it stumped
because
them.
Yeah, it
it
did.
was casual day, so you could actually
Yeah.
go into the pavilion in shorts, t-shirt, and casual attire, which was great to see. But to see
and they
to
get
see
on
a
the
live
tractor.
performance coming through the long room and down the steps for the first time, it kind of stumped me, but I liked it.
Brilliant.
I think a few liked it.
Thanks, chaps. And if you think you can solve what has stumped Tuffers and Vaughany this week, or you've got any other cricket-related questions or thoughts to throw our way, then please do get in touch via email, cricketclub@telegraph.co.uk, or on X, formerly known as Twitter, @telecricket. Until next week, goodbye.